speakers for DJing, when it comes to what you use to get the audio out from your DJ gear and into your ears, there are two things that are important. They need to be loud and decent quality, right? So you can get lost in the music, but they also need to be instant. And there lies a problem, and it's getting worse. So in today's lesson, I'm going to talk you through what the problem is, who it affects, why it's getting worse, and what you can do about it if you figure out that you might be affected. And I'll show you a test so you can work out whether this is affecting you in your DJing. It's one of those things that tends to affect beginners. And the reason it tends to affect beginners is that they have speakers like this one I'm holding here. I'm not having a dig at JBL here. This is a lovely speaker. I've borrowed it from my daughter and she loves it, and she plays her music through this all the time. She said, "Dad, I'm sorry it's not charged." I was like, okay, it doesn't matter. For what I need it for today, it's fine. I don't need to turn it on. However, there's a problem with this kind of speaker, and the problem comes for beginners because these are the kind of speakers you've probably got knocking around your house, right? We've all got these. They're brilliant. They're loud, they're good quality, they work with all kinds of things, they connect to our phones nice and easily. It's a nice way to listen to music nowadays, just like Spotify is a nice way to stream music nowadays. But for DJing, Spotify is no good. Loads of reasons. And these kind of speakers can be a problem, and we're going to talk through why now. Now, you might already be saying, I know what the problem is, Phil. I'm one step ahead of you. The problem is that DJ gear doesn't have Bluetooth out, and these speakers have Bluetooth in. And even if you could connect the two, there'd be a delay, because there is a delay with Bluetooth. It's not very big, but it's big enough to be a problem. The reason it's big enough to be a problem is that if you think about your DJ gear like a musical instrument, and you think about what you do on your gear like playing an instrument, which it really is, then the idea of any delay at all is ridiculous, right? If you've got a guitar plugged into an amp and you strum it, you don't want to wait a quarter of a second till it comes out of the speakers. Of course you don't. It's the same with DJing, right? So if you thought, right, these kind of speakers, problem is they've got Bluetooth, we can't use Bluetooth. Well, yes, they have, but that isn't the problem. Or rather, that's the first problem, and it is a game changer. A deal breaker. That's it, end of story. If you've only got Bluetooth on your speaker, you cannot use it for DJing. Even if you wanted to, your gear's not got Bluetooth out on it anyway, so you just can't. But that's not what the real problem is here, because beginners ain't daft, they're just beginners. And so you're probably thinking, if you are a beginner watching this, or even if you've never used this kind of speaker, but you're kind of one step ahead of me still, the thing is, these have got a line in socket. That's what this is here. It's a line in. It's kind of like the equivalent of the headphone socket on your phone when they used to have headphone sockets. But this is the other way. You can plug something into this one. Right. So you might say, well, if I get a lead, plug it in there, take the other end of that lead. I need to get the correct kind of lead, of course. Hey, I'm clever here. Plug that round the back and into my DJ controller. Then I'm going to find this is going to work just fine, because now I've put a wire between my Bluetooth speaker and my DJ controller, and therefore I ain't going to get any delay. Aren't I clever? And actually my speaker's pretty cool, isn't it? Well, you know what? In the early days of this kind of speaker, that always worked. And the big problem is it hardly ever works in 2024, and it's getting worse. So let's talk about why. And honestly, trust me, just trust me, it just doesn't work. Plug that in there. If I had this DJ controller set up now, I could easily show you that this speaker would have a delay on it. And I'll tell you how you can check it on your own system as well in a minute. And that means you can't use it for DJing. Right, so why? Why is that the case? Well, there's a few reasons. I mean, these speakers are awesome, as we've already discussed, for just listening to music on. They have a digital signal processor in them, which takes the input over Bluetooth usually and makes it sound even better than the speaker would suggest you're going to get. In other words, it uses clever processing to make the bass sound deeper, to make everything sound clear, to throw the audio around the room, sometimes even to react to where you've put the speaker to make it sound better. They're brilliant. They're absolutely awesome. But the problem is, all that takes time. If you add in a few other things, like the big one being that these have often got a party mode on, right? You can press a button on the top, it'll find other speakers around that are from the same brand and link them all up. And guess what? You've now got a party with 4 or 5 speakers going. Great if you're listening to a playlist, but it all introduces delay. And that delay means you can't use them for DJing, even with that wire plugged in. Even if you're not using the party mode, it's still there. The delay is still there. Trust me, we have done the tests. So how can you do the test? How can you find out if you're wanting to DJ through this kind of speaker, you've got one, you've figured out that it's got that line in socket on the top, and you want to check whether you can make it work with your DJ gear. Here's how then. And after this, I'm going to tell you the kinds of speakers that you can buy to start DJing with that will avoid this problem. I'll also give you a solution to this problem that you may not have thought of. But first, let's talk about testing. Right, so testing's easy. I mean, the first way to test is literally, let's get this DJ controller here so you can see a start and stop button. Start some music playing, plug your speaker in and start and stop. And if you feel like when you press start, the music starts a bit later, when you press stop, it carries on playing for a second, you've got an issue. That's the way a lot of people figure this out. But if you think, actually, I'm not sure, and you know, a lot of beginners, they're not used to doing the kind of things that we do that will show us there's a problem here. Things like looping and so on. You know, if you're not doing that stuff yet, you might not spot there's an issue. Here's another way. Grab a pair of headphones and plug them into your DJ controller. Now the headphone socket is there it is. It's a hidden little one on this controller here. So I've plugged this into the controller here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that the headphones are turned down, but they are on the same music source that is coming out of the speaker you're testing, right? So start some music playing, get it coming out of here, and make sure the headphones are set to the same music source, but turned down, right? And then what you're going to do is turn the headphones up. You're going to turn that headphone volume so that the headphones are turned up, which is up here on this one. If you hear any delay at all between what's coming out the speaker and the headphones, in other words, if the headphones are clearly playing some music that sounds a bit out of time from the speaker, that is solid proof that you've got this issue. But just trust me, if you've got a speaker like this, it's got a line in, it's been made in the last 2 or 3 years, it's probably got this issue, sadly. But that's the way that you can test. And again, it's really bad for DJing because things like manual beat mixing, you really need it to be right. But the thing that upsets me is we have a lot of students here, we're a DJ school, and a lot of people say, they try and put it into words and say things like, it doesn't seem as easy as it should to do whatever it is we're trying to teach. And it turns out sometimes this is the problem. So it's putting people off DJing. It's making those difficult first steps even harder. And that's a worry. Okay, so now we know how to test for it. Now we know what it is. It's the DSPs inside these speakers that are causing a problem, even if you have got them wired into your DJ gear. What are the solutions? Well, it's bad news and good news. The bad news is you have to, unfortunately, try a different speaker, use a different speaker, because you can't fix it on these speakers. So I want to go through the good news, which is all the different types of speakers you can use. And they're not expensive. A lot of them really will not cost you very much money at all. The first one is computer speakers. You know, the little speakers. Now, I'm not sure I've got any around here. We used to have a pair that I used for exactly this purpose, showing people. We haven't. But you know, the little ones that go either side of your laptop, they sometimes come with that subwoofer that tucks underneath the desk, the computer desk. They're brilliant. They're brilliant because they're good value. They're brilliant because there's no latency, there's no delay. Latency is another word for delay. Because computer gamers, there's no way a gamer is going to have audio that's delayed when they're playing their games. It puts you at an instant disadvantage. But the downside of these kind of speakers is that they are sometimes nowadays without that input socket, without that line in socket, because they connect digitally to the computer via USB. So you need to make sure if you're going to buy some, they've got that socket. But they're great value, so that could be a good choice. Just standard computer speakers. The second choice, any monitors that are sold for DJs or producers, any monitors at all that are sold for DJs and producers, they've been designed not to have any latency, right? So you're on a winner there. So just make sure you buy them from a DJ retailer or a music retailer, or make sure you go for a brand. Like obviously if you're going for something like Pioneer, then you know Pioneer makes speakers that are for their gear or anyone else's gear, but it's all DJ stuff. And producer speakers from the big names, KRK and so on, you're going to be okay. And they go from pretty cheap, under $100 for a pair, all the way up to thousands for each speaker. And these are one example I've got in the background here. But anything like that is going to be okay. Now the old school way of doing it, and you may even have this already in your home, is to go for an analog amplifier and passive speakers. It's how all hi-fi used to be. right? Hi-fi had its big peak in the 70s, but of course it's still trundling along. It's how hi-fi used to be. I've got an analog amplifier at home with some passive speakers in my turntable setup just for listening to music. And the reason that this is okay is that an analog amplifier, which has got none of the DSPs or digital circuitry in it, is going to not have any latency issues at all. Plugged into passive speakers, which are just old-fashioned speakers, right? Which don't have a power socket, they don't have any amplifiers or anything, they're just a simple speaker. Simple amplifier, simple analog amplifier, plugged into that kind of speaker, you're good to go, right? You might even have one in your garage, or you might even have one you've never got rid of, or you might be able to get one really cheap secondhand. These are great. These are going to work fine for DJing. So do consider that. So the next one is Pro PA speakers. PA speakers are speakers to play with out and about, and they're designed for DJs and for any performer. And so really these are the speakers that, and they could have Bluetooth, they could have battery charging, they could be quite portable, although they're not going to be as small as this, obviously. But they have got a microphone socket normally, right? So you can plug a microphone in. If you're a singer-songwriter, you can also plug your instrument in, but they always have a line in as well. So you can plug your DJ controller in. So that kind of speaker is fine. One of them, two of them, whatever, you know, go for what you want to go for. They're always going to work okay. And then the final type, before I go on to the kind of like, wow, I didn't know that. The final type is the kind of home cinema system, right? If you've got a system, a surround system for your home, and it happens to have a line in, not all of them do, then the chances are that'll be okay as well, because the manufacturers of those have to make sure that the picture can stay in sync with the audio and all that stuff. Some of them even have controls on that let you play with that, but that should be okay. The downside of that, of course, is quite often your home cinema system and your TV and stuff is set up in a different place to your DJ gear, which kind of makes it a useless solution, right? But worth considering. And finally, you can nowadays get DJ controllers that have got built-in speakers. This is one from Newmark, the Mix Stream Pro Go. Denon DJ has one as well, the SC Live 4 and the SC Live 2. Both have speakers built in, either here or here. Now these obviously are not going to power a massive party, and these obviously are designed for you to practice with at home or play in the living room with. But honestly, being able to just plug a unit like this in, well, this one's actually got a battery, you don't even have to plug it in. Being able to just turn on something like this and start DJing without worrying about any of this stuff, especially if you're a beginner, it's a really good thing. So do bear that in mind if you still haven't bought your gear. Add on the price of the speaker that you're considering, and maybe the fact that, you know, the fact that you're going to have to spend a bit more to get speakers that haven't got this problem and so on means that actually it's worth buying something with them already built in. It's certainly very convenient. So here we've talked about the problem with DJ speakers. The reason it's getting worse is that these things are getting more and more powerful. They're doing more and more clever stuff, but that introduces this delay even when you've got a wire plugged in. So using these for DJing used to be okay, not so much now, even if they have got a plug, and many haven't. We've talked about all of that. I've talked to you about how you can test it yourself using the headphones test on any DJ gear with whatever you've got plugged in. And I've also talked to you about several different ways that you can get around that. There's an article on Digital DJ Tips where we go into more detail about this. You'll find the article over there. It's probably got a nicer picture than this one, which I put on it quickly before going live today, in case you want to go and look at it straight away. When you're watching this video, you'll probably find that the team has made this article look very pretty. But anyway, all the information I've just talked about is over there in this article. Because we are live here today, I'm going to take your questions about this, and no doubt you've got recommendations about speakers or horror stories. So if you're watching the replay, hang around. It's fun when we go to the live comments that I've got coming in here. But just to let you know before we do that, if you like this teaching style, if you're returning to DJing and maybe you're noticing that there's all kinds of things that could trip you up, like what's changed with speakers, like all the stuff that's on modern gear that wasn't on old-fashioned gear, like where the hell to get your music and all that stuff, we've got just the course for you over on Digital DJ Tips. So do go check out our courses pages, and specifically check out our Complete DJ course, which is the groundbreaking course based on our book, our best-selling Amazon book on how to DJ. That is everything you need and nothing you don't on how to DJ on modern gear in 2024. Right, over to you guys and girls. How are you, people? It's great to be doing another one of these shows, and we're back for the new term, of course. This is our first Thursday show, recording this on Thursday the 10th of September. Sorry, Tuesday show. Tuesday the 10th of September. Actually, I think it's our second one. Time flies when you're having fun in the Digital DJ Tips studio. Anyway, in all seriousness, it's great to be back, and it's great to be here to help you with anything you need help with in this area. Now, I've got your comments coming in live, but as sometimes is the case, I have got so many that there's no way I can get through all of them. In fact, to be honest with you, it's always the case. As you can see, there's a lot of comments here. So I will try and do my very best to answer as many of these as I can. But if you're watching the video, you can always ask underneath the video and my team or I will get to you and help you with this stuff from there. Right, so firstly, hello to a few of our regulars, Mixmaster G and Paul and Mike and Charlie. Hello to my wife, Faye, who says, nice t-shirt. I suppose I should explain the t-shirt because I'm kind of out of uniform here today. It's National Day here in Gibraltar, and you do not leave your home in Gibraltar on National Day without wearing a t-shirt that is red, or some kind of clothing that is red and that is also white. I have my white shorts and trainers on, but you can't see that, so that's why. We've been to some lovely stuff going on in the main square today before I came here to do this show. I won't let the National Day stop me doing our shows for certain, but that's why. Right, hello to DJ G, who says, I'm not a beginner, but I am addicted to your videos. Glad to see you. Good to see you as well, DJ G over there on YouTube. Hello, Cat's Groove. Better late than never, says Stevie. Oh, you're a hard taskmaster, Stevie. Yeah, we were 5 minutes late today. Jason says, I am getting lag through my auxiliary input as well. Yes, it happens an awful lot, Jason. That is true. So hopefully you understand a little bit more about what's going on here. What do you think about the Yamaha Stage PAs 1K Mark II, says Alfredo in Brazil. I haven't reviewed them, but they will be absolutely fine because they're a pro PA speaker, so you will not have this problem. So thank you. Then let's talk about I Am Preacher Man, who says, I've actually got a version of this very speaker that you're holding up, Phil. This is the Charge 4. And Preacher Man says, it works in a pinch, but I do prefer my basic Logitech desktop computer system with the sub. And that's the thing, it works in a pinch. And look, I remember, right, I'll tell you a story about my days back DJing 5 nights a week in all kinds of clubs. Some good ones, but some very bad ones. They didn't often have the best monitor speakers, right? A monitor speaker in a club is the speaker that's near you, because obviously the speakers that the audience can hear are quite often a long way away from you. They didn't often have the very best, and sometimes they were totally broken. When they were, you were getting a big delay from the speakers over on the dance floor, like literally an audible delay, which is the same thing you get through these speakers. But the thing is, when you're a good experienced DJ, you can kind of cope with that. And what upsets me about this is you don't need that when you're a beginner. You need everything on your side when you're a beginner and when you're getting used to this. I mean, like on the old-fashioned way, what we used to do was get everything lined up and we'd put an extra twist like this, literally grab the center of the turntable and just give a little twist while it was playing, because we knew that when it sounded okay to us, it was actually off. And then doing that would just keep everything in time. But look, you don't need to know that. I don't want you to have to learn that just to DJ through a speaker like this, which is what you would have to do. You'd have to like literally get it so it sounds like it's in time and speed it up a bit and all that. You need instant. You just need instant. You can work around it, which is obviously what you're doing, I Am Preacher Man. But I'm sure you agree. Well, you do agree because you're using your computer speakers instead. Mike says, is there a way to mod the sound driver? Good question. The trouble is, the best you could do would be to get your headphones to be in sync with the speaker, but then they'll both be delayed, and I'm not sure you're gaining anything there, and you certainly can't do anything inside the speakers because there's no hardware there that you can play with. Ashley says, just buy the loudest, most expensive wired speakers you can afford, and I think that's pretty good advice there. Could you just mix in your headphones and not need to use the speaker to mix? That's a really good question, Derek, and yes, you could. Now, funnily enough, because I love Laidback Luke, Laidback Luke is not someone who toes the line or follows the status quo in anything. And Laidback Luke, when I went to his house to discuss some stuff that when we were filming some stuff together, I was in his living room. He had one of the really big ones of these, one of the really big ones, right on the front of his desk, and his gear there, and he DJ'd through it, even though it had this delay. And I was like, "What are you doing, dude?" And he's like, "That's not for me. That's for anyone who's in my living room." He said, I have my earbuds. In fact, he doesn't have headphones. He has earbuds. He said, I have my earbuds in. I do it totally on my headphones. I'm not even listening to that, which is fair enough. And it's exactly what you're saying, Derek. So yes, you could mix in your headphones. And in that case, you just don't care whether there's a delay on the other speakers or not. But for most people, it's best to just avoid it, avoid the problem. This is from 47. Who says buy speakers that fit your room size, otherwise get good headphones. I'd say do both, certainly do both. I have a Pile 1400 watt monitor speaker, says Nicholas on Facebook, and I love it. It's nice and punchy. Do not buy a JBL boombox like I did. The internal electronics are not latency compatible. It was a £400 mistake, says Ashley. So yeah, you're just underlining exactly what we're talking about here. Does the III Unit 4 speaker work with the Omnis Duo, says Bass Omash. Now, I'm not going to get into this here in too much detail, but there are wireless systems that you can convert any speakers into that will work. One of them is the one that comes in the Pioneer DJ, well, actually the Omnis, let's start again, the Alpha Theta Wave 8. I think they're called Wave 8 speakers, which are just out of shot actually. I've got a pair just up here. And they've got this wireless system that's faster than Bluetooth and that you can DJ across. And III, this is what reminded me of it. They've got some speakers called the Unit 4, which have got quite low latency. It's not perfectly low, but again, just about DJable with. And I know what you're asking, Baso Mash, and I don't know whether the answer to that, but what I do know is I've tried what you're talking about on other things and it didn't work. So I know what you're talking about. Apologies to everyone else. No time to go into it here. So I would say don't assume it would work. It definitely works with a power bank. Right, let's get back to the subject we're talking about here. Ricardo says for DJing, wired are always best. Yes, they are. But oh no, powered are always best. Yeah, well, powered, the difference between a powered speaker and a passive speaker is a powered speaker has got the amplifier built in. A passive speaker, you need to have a separate amp. I wouldn't say that's always true. You go to any club and they're all passive speakers with an amp room, like with all the amps in. So that's not always the case. I don't think it really matters, to be honest. It's whatever's most convenient to you. Right, what else have we got? Have we got any questions about this? It's lovely that you're all sharing your thoughts, and a lot of you are saying the same thing regarding headphones. If you are forced to use Bluetooth, it is better to mix in headphones. Yeah, that is the great piece of advice that's come out of this that I hadn't prepared beforehand and that I didn't talk to you about. It's always good to have you people adding in the extra bits and pieces to fill in the training here. It's why I always tell people who are new to this and watching the replay, not like you people watching live now, hang around to the end. The questions are coming at the end, and they're half of the fun here. Right, so zero latency says you don't like my music. I'll believe it when I hear it. Yeah, any speaker system has got latency of some kind, especially when they start adding electronics into it. But look, latency of 3 or 5 or 7 milliseconds. Our ears can't tell the difference. It's effectively instant. I do prefer headphone mixing anyway, says a couple of you. So yeah, good to hear that, and that will certainly cure the problem. However, Cully has some words of warning, who says DJing in your headphones is great until someone lets you know that there's nothing coming out of the speakers. Oops. And on that, I'm going to leave you today. Thank you for joining us. This has been Phil in the Digital DJ Tips studio with another live show talking about the problem that's only getting worse, especially for beginners who maybe haven't been taught this stuff, with using the most popular types of speakers today with DJ gear. And hopefully you found a solution here if you've been finding this problem. If only just DJ in your headphones until you can afford a speaker with the zero latency that we're looking for. Thanks everyone. I will see you next week I will see you later this week on Thursday. Until then, get good, get out there, make the moments. Take care. Bye for now.